Welcome to Elgin Museum Makes, a series of short videos showing you how to make your own artifacts based on items from the museum's collection. In this episode, we'll be making our own Bronze Age jet necklace. Stay tuned for some history on jet necklaces, or skip ahead if you're ready to get crafting. So what is jet and what was it used for? Jet and jet-like materials were used in jewellery and ornaments from the Neolithic period onwards, used to make buttons, beads, bangles, rings and other objects. Necklaces made up of one or more strings of beads are also seen, with beads of different shapes and sizes. Almost unique to Britain is the use of spacer plates, rectangular or triangular shaped pieces which sit between the smaller beads and separate the different strands of some necklaces. Sometimes these are decorated with patterns of circles, dots and lines. Archaeologists mostly find these objects when excavating early Bronze Age burials dating from 2200 to 1800 BC, but sometimes also when excavating Neolithic and Bronze Age houses. Jet is a dark brown or black stone-like material. It's a form of coal created from fossilised monkey puzzle trees. In Britain, it is mainly found in Whitby, Yorkshire, where the jet was formed about 181 million years ago. With jet being so rare, often other materials the same colour as jet, like cannel, coal or shale, was used instead. In Elgin Museum we have a beautiful necklace that was found in an early Bronze Age burial at Burghley Lodge near Rafford, to the west of Elgin. It was found between 1913 and 1914. It's thought to be made of shale from north of Inverness, not real jet. When it was first displayed, it was strung quite differently to how it is now. Dr. Sheridan from National Museums of Scotland looked at the necklace again in 1996. She looked at the wear pattern on the beads, how the shapes of the beads had changed where they'd rubbed against their strings, the number of holes in the spacer plates, and the shape of gold necklaces from the same time. This showed that the necklace would probably have been strung in more of a crescent or semicircular shape.
Okay, so now for the fun part, it's time to make our own jet necklace. So what you're going to need is some black paper, or if you don't have black paper, some white paper that you can colour in black, that's absolutely fine. So for colouring in, just your felt pens or colour pencils or black crayons, whatever you've got to hand. You're also going to need some scissors, so be careful with the scissors, and if you're not sure about using scissors, get somebody on hand to help you with that. We'll need some sellotape or some glue or some double-sided tape, whatever you've got to hand, any of those is fine. We'll also need some string or ribbon or cord or thread, whichever you've got handy, all of them are fine. Some cardboard, just any old cardboard from parcel, from a cereal packet, anything's fine. And then most importantly is a round pencil, so one that'll roll. So let's get started. What we're going to do first is we're going to cut our paper to make our beads. So you need your black paper or your white paper, which you can colour in. And what we're going to do is cut some triangular shapes. So they're going to be long, thin triangles. And if you want, you can draw them on the paper before you cut. So it doesn't matter how wide your triangles are, and they don't have to be perfectly straight. The wider it is at the bottom, the wider your bead will be. So you want some of all different sizes, because if you remember from the necklace in the museum, the beads are, some of them are small, some of them are big. So like I say, you can just draw them out on your bit of paper and then cut them out. If you feel like you can cut the triangle straight away, that's fine. You don't have to mark them on the paper first. And just be really careful when you're cutting. So we'll just cut. Make sure you've got your fingers out the way when you're cutting. And even when you've got sort of scraps of, like this off the side, we can still use these for making beads, so don't throw anything away. And we've got one here that's got quite a wide bottom on the triangle, so that'll make a nice wide bead. And the shorter end of the triangle, it doesn't have to be pointy. It's easier if it's a little bit more wide on the end without the point. That'll make it much easier for sticking. So basically just keep cutting triangles until you've got as many triangles as you want beads. And once you've started making the beads, you might realise, oh, I need more wide ones or more small ones. So you can just make more as you go along. So we'll just finish cutting up these to start with. And you'll see here I've not used pencil lines at this end of the paper. We'll just cut it up and then be really careful when you get to the end. Make sure your fingers are out the way or get somebody to help you with the cutting. And there we have lots of triangles. And like I say, it's absolutely fine if you don't have black paper. You can just use your white paper and colour it in. Okay, now it doesn't matter how long your triangles are, so these ones are a little bit shorter that I've just coloured into the other ones, but that's absolutely fine. You can use the long length of the paper as well, so you could cut some really long bead strips. And I'll just cut a few of those so we've got some ready to try. So now we've got lots of triangles, all different sizes, so it's time to make some beads. So what we need now is our round pencil, the one that rolls, okay? We'll put the pencil at the wide end of the triangle, the widest end, and we'll just fold the wide end up over the pencil and just hold it in place there with your fingers. It doesn't have to be too tight, but tight enough to it'll sort of hold while you roll, because what we're going to do now is we're just going to tuck that end in as we keep rolling the pencil forward, and then you just use your fingers to roll the pencil forward slowly. I'll just bring this down so you can see it, and we just keep rolling, rolling, and then we get to the end, and this is where we need some glue or some sellotape. So I'll just get a little glue, and we just put a little bit of glue on the end. Again, make sure you've got a work surface underneath so you're not gluing on the table, so old newspaper or old magazines or plastic, and we'll just keep rolling over the bit that we've glued, roll a little bit further forward, and there we go. It's staying in a nice roll on the pencil, and then we just slide it off the pencil and we've got our first bead. Try a smaller one. So we've got our coloured in paper, so if you're using the white paper that you coloured in yourself, remember to start on the white side, and then that way the black will be on the outside of your finished bead. And for this one we'll just show you that you can use some sellotape, so you're going to be easier if you cut a little piece of sellotape to start with. Doesn't need to be a very big piece, just a little tiny piece, which I'll just keep to hand at the side of my table. And then again, take your nice rounding pencil, put it at the wide end of your triangle, fold and push the wide end of the triangle over the top of your pencil and sort of tuck it under, and then just roll, 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 and then when you get to the end you've got your little tail of the triangle to stick down, so you get your little piece of sellotape and just stick that over the end and give it a squash down, and again got a nice bead. Oh, there, that one's a little bit tight actually, so if you do it too tight it'll be a bit difficult to get it off the pencil, so not too tight around the pencil. And here we go, we've got another bead. So that'll show you if you have a wide end in your widest triangle and a smaller end, that's the two different sizes you'll get. So the next thing we're going to work on is the spacer plate. So if you remember from the photographs and the video of the necklace in the museum and in the British Museum and National Museum, sometimes the necklaces were a single string of bead, but often they had these triangular or rectangular shaped, what we call spacer plates, that sit between the different strings of beads and help feed it through and help keep this nice semicircular half circle shape. So we're going to make our spacer plates not out of shell or jet, of course. So we're going to get our cardboard, and we need our cardboard to be black so that it matches the jet beads that we've made and with our black paper. So again, it's just time to do some colouring, and we'll just colour the cardboard in. And it doesn't matter if it's brown cardboard or white cardboard or, you know, the inside of a cereal box, anything will do. If you're using this kind of brown cardboard, you can sometimes see there's lines, so make sure the lines are in the way you want to fold it, and then that'll make it a little bit easier. So if I want to fold it this way, it's easier than trying to fold it against the lines. So I'll just keep colouring this in. And you just colour the whole piece of cardboard in and keep going. And here's one that I've made already that I've coloured in. So what we need to do is decide what shape of spacer plates we're going to make. So are we going to make rectangles or triangles? The easiest thing to do is to make a rectangular one. So we'll start by making rectangles. So with this, I'm just going to cut this piece of cardboard carefully in half. And again, keep your fingers well out the way, or get somebody else to help you, because sometimes cardboard's a little bit more difficult to cut. And what we're going to do, I'm going to fold this over. And like I say, I'm using the lines in this cardboard to help me, but if you've got plain cardboard that doesn't have lines, just make some little folds, and it's up to you how big you make your spacer. So this will make one that's quite long, so the strings will go through this side and come out this side. So that's maybe a little bit wide for what I want to do. So what I'm going to do is cut this carefully in half, again keeping my fingers well out the way. And then if we fold it, that's going to be a nice neat spacer that'll keep our strings. So it'll sit like that, and take the strings from one side and feed them out to the other. You remember that sometimes the spacer plates have decoration on them in circles or lines or dots. Now obviously this is black, so it can be quite difficult to see, but what I found is if you get a biro, just a normal black pen, then you can make circles, and you can make dots, and you can make lines, and although it's black on black, you can still see it. I'll just draw another one here, and some more lines around the outside, and one in the middle. And what we'll do is we'll just show you there, so you can see, although it's black pen on black cardboard, you can see the outlines, and this is almost how we would have seen it on jet, because it would be just very, very faintly incised using sharp tools on the jet stone. So you can just carry on decorating however you like. You can also use pencil. It doesn't show up quite as well, but if you haven't got a black pen to hand, you can use a pencil, and then you can still see that there are pencil marks there. And so we'll put this to one side while we make our other spacers. So you can make as many or as few spacers as you like. So if you want to just have a single string of beads, you can do that. If you want to have some spacers, then we can make different shapes of spacer. So let's see if we can make a triangular shaped spacer. So we've got our coloured in cardboard here already, and we want to make it a triangle shape. So we'll just draw a triangle on the cardboard as a kind of rough guide. And this might be a little bit trickier to fold because it's a different shape. So if you can just see, I've just marked roughly a couple of lines there. Now I'm actually going to go over it again with a pencil and just press a little bit harder so that it goes through the cardboard a little bit, and that will make it a little bit easier to fold. So you can see there I've kind of gone through the lines a little bit, and then with any luck, there we go, we've got a nice fold. We'll do the same on the other side, and then we just, well, keeping your fingers out of the way, trim these edges off a little bit, and on that side, and then we can fold. So we just need to trim these bottom triangles off here so that you can't see them, and there we have our triangular spacer to go with our rectangular spacer. So you can just go ahead and decorate. I think we'll put some lines on this one, and maybe some circles again. And then some more lights. It's totally up to you what pattern you put on your spacer plate. So there we go, we've got our triangular spacer plate. So we need one of these at each side, and I'm going to make another rectangular spacer plate, and then we'll have our design with the two triangles and the two rectangles. So now it's time to string our beads and make our necklace. So you can use normal string like you might have around the house, or any cord that you might have from gift parcels, or if you've got little pieces of ribbon lying around, or you might have some of this invisible thread in the sewing kit at home. So any of these is absolutely fine. What we'll do is we'll start with some string. That's probably the easiest thing to start with. And we probably want, we'll start with these middle sections. So what we're going to do is we'll have, for making a multi-string bead necklace, we will have, we'll try and do 5 strings between the two rectangles, and then 4 strings between the rectangles and the triangles. So we'll start with some string, and I'm going to just roughly have a piece of string that's about the same length as this piece of paper, which is around about 30 centimetres or so, but it doesn't matter if it's not exact. I'll just cut this piece of string, so we've got our string to start with, and we're going to work on this centre piece first. So we're going to use some wider beads than that for that. So just gather up some of your beads, and it doesn't matter if they're slightly different sizes. And it's just a case of, now this might be easier because sometimes your string gets frayed on the end. If you take a little piece of sellotape to start with and wrap it around the end of the string, it'll make it a little bit like on your shoelaces where you have the kind of plasticky bit that makes it easier for threading through your shoes. So just wrap a little piece of sellotape around the end of the string like that. That should make it a little bit easier, hopefully. And then it's just a case of passing the string through your beads and pulling it out the other side, and trying to make sure that you don't drop it off the other end straight away. So we'll just pass it through this bead again, there we go. And then the next one, I'll just pass the string through. It's probably easier to tip the string down through the whole of the bead from top to bottom a little bit. Just thread it through, Let's see what we've got there. So we've got 5 beads there on a string, and I think that's probably about enough for that one. So we'll just put that one to one side, and now we'll do the same 4 more times so that we have 5 strings for our middle section. Okay, so we've got our 5 strings of beads ready for the middle section, which will go between our 2 rectangular spacers. So now we need to make our beads to go between our rectangular spacers and our triangular spacers, so that's 3 or 4 strings of maybe smaller beads to go between these two. Okay, so now we have our strings of beads ready to go. So we've got our 5 long strings for the middle, 2 sets of 4 strings slightly shorter for the edges, our triangular spacers and our rectangular spacers. And this is where it might get a little bit tricky. So let's start with our middle section. So we'll just move the end bits out the way. So what we want to do is put your longest string, however you've strung them, put the one that's the longest at the bottom and the one that's the shortest at the top, and then when it sits in a semicircle it'll curve round nicely. So we'll just move this to one side and slide them over. So this is where, if you have some double-sided sellotape, that'll come in handy. If you haven't got double-sided sellotape, that's absolutely fine, don't worry about it. So we'll do one side with double-sided tape and the other side with glue and sellotape. So with your glue and your rectangular spacer, we're just going to turn it over to the side and we're going to put some glue on the inside. And then what we're going to do is take our strings of our beads and lay them out, and then we'll just squash the string into the glue a little bit. Now we're going to put some sellotape on it as well, so it's okay if it doesn't stick very well. And we'll just put the next string on. So put the strings on so the beads are close to the spacer cardboard, and sort of space the strings out kind of evenly if you can. And then the next one, you might need to squash the strings of beads down a little bit. I'll just put that bit of string on, and then the last one, and I'll just squash that in there. Now what we'll do is get some sellotape again. I'll just cut a bit of sellotape and stick the sellotape over the strings, and use your finger to squish the sellotape in between the strings as well so that it sticks to the cardboard, and just rub over it with your finger so that it sticks really well. And what we'll do is we'll put a second piece on. Just be really careful when you're cutting sellotape. We'll put the second piece just on the outside edge, and same again, squash the sellotape down and try and squash it between the bits of string so that it keeps the string in place and the string doesn't drop out. Okay. So now we've got one side stuck down, so we'll just need to go to the other side now. So we'll slide this over and make sure that the strings are in the same order at this end. So there's your top, there's number 2, there's number 3, and there's number 4. Now we want to sort of arrange them so they're starting to curve a little bit before we stick them down. Let's just slide these beads along. Same here. Okay, you can get your second bit of cardboard, and I'll just show you here with the double-sided tape as well as the sellotape option from the other side. So you might be lucky enough to have some double-sided tape in your stationery box or in your craft box. So we'll just put 2 pieces down because this is quite thin double-sided tape. Oh, try not to get it attached to yourself. And just give it a squidge down with your finger. And then we just peel the white cover off this double-sided tape. And if it's not quite stuck, just rub over it with your finger again a little bit more. Can be a little bit tricky. There we go. So we'll take our spacer with its tape and we'll just slide it underneath the strings, and we'll slide it in, and say we want to start to move your strings so they start to form a sort of semicircle, and we'll just put the 3 strings down, and then squash them on. Problem with double-sided tape is it sticks to you as well as the string. Push that down, and what we'll do is, again, we'll just put a little bit of sellotape on just to be safe and make sure that the strings don't start to move. So we'll just take a bit of tape and put that over the strings and squash it in between the strings so that they stay separate, that they stay attached. So if we turn this carefully over, you begin to see we've got the start of our necklace. So now we need to connect our outside pieces. Let's just unravel that. So we'll just slide along, we'll do this side first. So we need to cut these strings off that are a little bit long. We don't need these bits of string anymore. It might be a bit tricky, so you might need somebody to help you with that. I'll just cut that off. And the same at the other side. And we take our 4 strings this time. And we'll start by, as before, we'll separate them out into our layers, 4 layers, and again we'll put the smallest one at the top and the biggest one at the bottom to help with the curve. So here, this side we had the double-sided tape, so there's still just enough in there to stick these 4 down. So we'll just push that onto there. And again, and with the 3rd one, and with the 4th one. And we'll just squash that down a bit. And I'll just trim this string a little bit. That's careful not to cut the strings you want to keep. And again, we'll put a bit of sellotape over the top just to keep them in place. Make sure that gets squashed down over the strings. And we'll put a second piece. Over the other end of the string, squash it down, and we'll slide those beads. Now what we can do is we can close this spacer because we've put both sides in. So again, if you've got double-sided tape, you can use double-sided tape, or you can use glue, or you can use sellotape. Let's try the glue here. So we want to glue the sections that we're going to fold in. So we'll do it one at a time. So we'll fold this piece in with its glue and squash it down, and hopefully that'll keep all of the strings in place, and then we'll glue the bottom. Again, being careful that you're gluing on a old newspaper or something like that. And we'll fold this section up and squash it down. Now it might not want to stick very well, so you might want to use a peg from the washing basket to clip over it. Or you can also try a little piece of sellotape to help with that. I'll just put a piece of sellotape on and then carefully cut the spare sellotape off the edge. Okay. So these beads are well and truly attached to the first spacer, so now we just need to get them into their second spacer. So we'll slide them down so they're all nice in a row and get our triangular spacer. And we'll just lay these 4 strings into the triangular spacer. Make sure that they're not twisted. And we'll just put some sellotape on. And it doesn't matter if they move a little bit, but make sure that they're not twisted over each other. Look for a bit more sellotape to the edge here. It's a bit tricky once you've got the other beads all attached to the other side. And then we'll just we'll leave these strings coming out this side. What we'll do, and you might need help with this, is we'll just tie these into a knot. So gather the 4 together and pass them through, hopefully pass them through to make a knot. There we go. And now we can close this spacer off as well. So we'll just make sure that we've got enough space to fold it, which we do. So we'll just, again, glue or sellotape or double-sided tape or a little bit of everything, whatever you've got to hand. Just fold this one down and over and squash it down. And glue the bottom section and fold it up. And again, if you've got a clothes peg handy, that would help to make sure it stays sticky together while it dries. We'll just try a piece of sellotape as well, so it covers the edge, and we'll just use our fingernail to squash it down and make sure it sticks really well. So we've got one side of our necklace completed. Here we are. So we'll just move to the other side and do the same again. Okay, so now let's just see if we can tie these ends together and make a little fixing. So I'm just going to loop a longer piece of string around these 4 pieces here. Again, you might need help with this. I'm just going to tie a knot to gather them all together, and then we'll tie it in another knot just to make it a little bit more secure. And then we're going to use this piece of string and just wrap it around to gather them up together. Slide that down a bit. And then if we can manage it, we'll try and thread this underneath just those last 2 loops. Might be easier if you've got a little bit of tape on the end again to make it a little bit more like a shoelace. And we'll just pull that through and pull it tight, and that should keep that in place. And then we'll just cut these longer threads off. We'll leave a little bit of them just in case. Now we've got one fastening on this end, so let's see what we've got at the other end. So at the other end we have a little bit more string, but we'll just do the same again. So if we turn it over, here we've got our nice triangular spacers with our short strings, and our rectangular spacers, and then our longer strings below. And it's just a case of getting then somebody to tie it around your neck. So you can make these multiple string necklaces, you can make a single string necklace, or you could even make a slightly smaller one and have that as a bracelet. So we hope you'll have a go, and if you do, please do let us see your creations. You can post on Facebook or Twitter or send us an email, and we'd love to see what you've done. We hope you'll join us for our next episode of Elgin Museum Makes.